So I had, and I forgot to put it here, I had an exciting week because a magazine arrived called Focus magazine. It's a magazine for expats, and they asked me. I mean, back in probably November, they asked me if I could. Oh, thank you. So I think the internet's okay. They asked me if I could write an article for them, and so I did. And it's just the wonder of publishing and how long everything takes. And so it just came out this week. So it's called Focus magazine. It's for expats. I think you can read the article online actually. Focus UK. Focus is with capital letters. So yes, so I'm all excited about that. So anyway, today let's begin. Today I am dressed as Pierrot because this is the painting that we are discussing. Now, I've got to tell you that when I decided to do this painting for kind of fairly perhaps unusual reasons, and when I looked at this I was like, oh really? But this is, stick with it, because this is a fantastic, I only come here to see what you're wearing, you're hilarious. Thanks very much. I don't know whether that's a compliment or not. Are you just going to turn off now? It's like, oh, she's wearing that, that's fine, I'm going. I've forgotten to turn comments off, but I will turn comments off in a second. But this is so this is a fantastic example of a work that really, I was like, oh gosh, it doesn't particularly, I was going to say inspire me. Maybe that's true. So, but it is an example of something that the more you look at it and the more you think about it, the more it yields. And it really, really does. So stick with us. So the reason that I chose this painting today is actually because of my stepdad. Because it's Father's Day coming up. Now, Father's Day, I'm going to turn off comments now. So Father's Day has become a bit of a thing in our house or in our family over the last only couple of weeks, because I phoned up I've phoned up my parents, and by the way, my real dad, I haven't forgotten about him. He unfortunately is no longer with us, so I kind of consider my stepdad to be my dad. So I phoned up, and this was a couple of weeks ago, right at the beginning of June. It's like, oh, well, I see you've forgotten Father's Day. I was like, oh my God, have I forgotten Father's Day? So this weekend just gone, I thought it was Father's Day. So I phoned up, happy Father's Day. It's like, no, it's not Father's Day yet. It's next week, apparently, isn't it? It's next week. Anyway, confusion reigned. And this pertains to Father's Day in a roundabout way for me, because when I first started doing these Elevenses, I did something for my mum for Mother's Day, although I don't know if I said it at the time. The Mary Cassatt that I did at the beginning unfortunately wasn't recorded. All new technology then. And this, my stepdad absolutely loved the book by Hannah Rothschild called The Impossibility of Love. And it was, in the book, I haven't read it, but there's a painting by Watteau called The Impossibility of Love, which is in fact a fictional painting. But Hannah Rothschild apparently was inspired to write the book by this work here, which is also by Watteau, and it's in the Louvre. And she says that she was on a gap year working in the Louvre, presumably when she was quite young, and she saw this painting and it really resonated with her, because I think at the time she was feeling a little bit homesick and a little bit isolated. I can kind of relate to that. I was in Paris when I was 18 and felt for quite some time quite homesick and isolated. And anyway, this was the inspiration for her book. So it's by Watteau, and it dates to the early 18th century. It's around about 1718, 1719, and it depicts Pierrot. Pierrot, we used to call it. The character that I always associate Pierrot with fancy dress parties, to be honest, when I was a kid, because there was always somebody. It was quite an easy costume. I think there was always somebody basically dressed like this. I was thinking about doing the whole makeup thing today, but I thought I'd end up probably looking more like Magenta from the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something rather than Pierrot. Not so good at that. But it's so this is the main character that is depicted, and Pierrot is part of a wider tradition, something that Watteau was very interested in, and that was a theatrical genre called the Commedia dell'arte. So Commedia dell'arte was a genre of theatre in which there were stock characters such as Pierrot, and there would be sort of stock scenarios as well. Kind of a little bit, I think, like Punch and Judy. If anybody remembers Punch and Judy, I can't believe I'm saying that, but some people might not know what Punch and Judy is, but a puppet show. Again, sort of stock characters, stock scenarios. So some of it was scripted, some of it was improvised, but all within the character. So Pierrot was within this tradition, Commedia dell'arte, and he was a character that was always quite naive, a little bit gullible, very often the butt of a joke. The one that just didn't get things, always unlucky in love. He was in love with someone and the girl always ran off with somebody else. So a sort of a character that was a little bit sad, a little bit naive, a little bit put upon. There are other characters in this work that are characters from the Commedia dell'arte. So the one on the left-hand side, riding the ass or the donkey, is the dottore. So the doctor was always a know-it-all. Yeah, a real pain in the neck. If you've done something, he's done it bigger and better and more and so on. And then the couple just to the right-hand side, as you look at Pierrot, there's a man and a woman. They are the traditional lovers in the Commedia dell'arte. So this is Leandro and Isabella. And then the rather more flamboyant gentleman with the in the red, with the red hat on. This is the captain, and the captain is always brave and dashing and always gets the girl. So he is. He has depicted all of these different characters, but what I would say is this, just looking at the Pierrot, it's kind of like, okay, so you can tell this is Pierrot because he's got the outfit on, but where's the mask? Where's the white face? Often these characters wore masks. Pierrot didn't wear a mask. He just had his face whited, and then quite often with the black tears and so on. So it makes me think, and this is where this started to get quite interesting for me, because then I was looking at this figure, and he is melancholy, and he is really quite vulnerable, and I was thinking as why that's so. How has Watteau depicted this vulnerability? And I think there are several things. I think first of all, he doesn't have his makeup on. So what are we looking at here? Are we looking at Pierrot, the character, or are we looking at the person who is dressed up as Pierrot? And by the way, we don't know who the person who was dressed up as Pierrot was. It could have been an actor of the day. It could have been one of Watteau's friends. There is quite some strong evidence to suggest that it's Watteau himself. So it's a self-portrait, which is even more interesting. This is one of those paintings that actually, the more you know about it or the more you think about it, almost the more questions it inspires that are largely at the moment unanswerable, but it's a fantastic dialogue, and this is what I love so much about art history. So who is this? So are we supposed to be seeing this young lad, or are we supposed to be seeing Pierrot? Has Watteau dressed up this young lad in the Pierrot outfit to perhaps give him some of the characteristics, or to suggest that he's going through some of the things that Pierrot stood for or symbolised. The viewpoint is quite interesting. So it's as though we're perhaps in an audience looking up. The lighting, just look at the lighting, it's kind of in the centre of his body. So I almost feel that this is a moment of transition. So it's a moment that he's walked out onto the stage alone and vulnerable, and the lighting sort of hasn't adjusted yet to hit his face. So it's a static moment in many respects, but yet also a moment of flux. So quite enigmatic, quite emotive. It does make it is a melancholy work, and I think it's melancholy for all of those reasons. It definitely was. It transpires that it definitely was a work that was meant to be looked up at, because in fact most art historians agree that this was in fact painted as a billboard, so a theatrical billboard. So this work would have been hung outside the Commedia dell'arte as an advertisement, essentially. So that sort of gives it another dimension. It is a strange work of art. It definitely was hanging outside an artist's gallery in 1804, because in 1804 it was actually purchased from this particular artist by a gentleman called Baron Denon, Denon, and you might recognise that name if you've been to the Louvre. He has a whole wing dedicated to him, or in his name. So he bought this work and then actually kind of kept it for several decades, didn't really display it, didn't really do anything to it, perhaps knowing that it would increase in value. He had a bit of an eye for these things, which is probably why he was so wealthy, and why a whole wing of the Louvre was named after him. And eventually, after some decades, another art dealer showed some interest and in fact bought this Watteau painting for thousands of times more than Denon paid for it back in 1804. So Denon did well, and then eventually it was bequeathed in 1869 to the Louvre. It's not necessarily the type of work that you would generally associate with Watteau. So Watteau is more associated with this kind of painting that is painted exactly the same time as the Pierrot. This is called the Fête Venetienne, so the Venetian fete, or the Venetian dance, or kind of gathering. So outside scenes, people socializing. On the surface, and this is what is so interesting, I think, about Watteau's work, on the surface you think, oh, everyone's having a really great time, partying away. And then if you go into some little details, you just think, oh, hang on a minute. Just look at this man and this lady in the centre here. You know, is he harassing her? Is there something a little bit untoward going on here? And so if you look at Watteau's work, then quite often this is what you'll find. You'll find something that's on the surface very lovely and jolly, but then if you go into it, in fact, the whole gamut of human emotion and human characteristic comes into play. They're not as one-dimensional as they first appear, although they all appear quite theatrical. So he definitely had this thing with the theatre. This was his style. It was also, unfortunately, his style, or his thing, to maybe not pay quite as much attention to the artistic process as he should, in terms of the way that he applied paint and prepared canvases. He was known to be a little bit shoddy, unfortunately, which means that most of his work is in pretty poor condition, which is a shame. Maybe he would have got better. He only lived to the age of either 36 or 37. We're not entirely sure when he was born. And it was thought that he died of tuberculosis. But recently, a scholar in particular has been looking at Watteau, studying Watteau, and he thinks that potentially he actually died of lead white poisoning. So lead white was a paint that was used very much so in this work, and was poisonous, had lead in it. And I'm also thinking, and I'm not entirely sure about this, but I'm also thinking that lead white possibly was used in the makeup, because it was used in makeup, that Pierrot wore. So that's kind of a little bit ironic, isn't it? So there we go. Watteau and Pierrot and a sort of melancholy young lad and vulnerability and taking centre stage when maybe you're not quite ready to. I don't know, what is this work about? It can be, I think it can speak to a lot of things, but it's definitely a work that has yielded for me so much more than I thought it would. So thank you to my stepdad for introducing me to this work, albeit obliquely in a funny sort of way, because I don't think I would have looked at it otherwise. So I'm going to turn comments back on, and I'm going to turn Pierrot off. I don't want to be rivaled by another Pierrot. Even though I'm not, I might be a clown, but I'm definitely not a sad one, as I hope you can tell. So yes, Chris, that was for you. And I wish all of you who are fathers happy Father's Day for Sunday. Yeah, we've already had 3 Father's Days in our house. Very confused. We're all very confused. Never mind. Thank you, Lavinia. Thank you. Fascinating as ever. So this is my last Monday Elevenses. I'm still going to continue to do Elevenses on a Thursday. So we're going to continue with the weird art and all of the strange things that I dig up for you. It won't be the end of this type of Elevenses where we just look at maybe one painting or one subject. I will be planning them periodically. This is Mum, but his card arrived today. Yes, because I thought, as I say, we're all very confused about Father's Day. Yes, so I will be doing other lives apart from Thursdays, but there'll be sort of a little bit more ad hoc, but obviously I will let you know. I love my Wonders 11. Sorry, Adrian. I'll do other things though. Pepped Up by Paintings we'll continue to do, and more Zoom tours. So I hope that maybe you'll consider joining me for a Zoom tour. I'm planning another one as we speak, so that will be up on the website very soon. And all sorts. So yeah, the lives always still on a Thursday, and the other ones won't have gone away. They'll just be a little bit more ad hoc, as people I think are kind of going back to work and doing other things. I sort of felt like it was time to ease off a little bit. So have a lovely week, everybody. I need to take this hat off. It's quite hot. It's quite hot. And I will see you on Thursday. Oh, Steve, what do you say? Always interesting and lively. I have memories of going to circus and there was that character. Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Steve. Have a good week, everybody. Bye.